What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today we're going to take a look at the Smith and Wesson 610. This is going to be an end-frame Smith and Wesson revolver that's chambered for 10mm and 40 Smith and Wesson. Kind of unusual and something out of the norm. It's extremely rare and hard to find these, but we were able to get our hands on one here, so we're just going to go over the basic features and specs of this revolver, kind of see what it's good for, see if I think you should buy one, and of course at the end of the video we'll go out and shoot it and see how it does. So, let's dive right in. And before we get too far along, I'll definitely show you that the revolver is unloaded, so you can see that there is nothing in our cylinder there. Everything is clear and safe, and that's extremely important, guys. Safety is first, and that always needs to be the #1 priority. So this revolver was first introduced in 1990. It only lasted until 1992, then it kind of disappeared until the late 90s. We saw it kind of have an introduction again, and then it lasted into the mid-2000s, and then we didn't hear anything about it, and then it had a formal reintroduction here recently in 2019. So I was able to find one of these the other week, brand new, so we have the updated 2019 version right here in front of us. There is going to be a 4-inch version and a 6.5-inch version. I opted to get the 6.5-inch version. I think the 4.5 version looks a little bit snubby and kind of unproportional to the rest of the revolver, considering it is the end frame. Excuse me. The end frame is going to be one of Smith and Wesson's largest frames as far as their revolvers go. So she's a big girl, that's for sure. And also we're going to get about 20% more velocity from our 10mm and 40 Smith and Wessons with the 6.5-inch barrel than we would have got with, say, the 4-inch barrel. As far as just some quick specs of the revolver here, it's going to be 12 inches long. So a foot long, it's 6 inches tall. The thing weighs 50 ounces, so it's over 3 pounds. This is not for the lighthearted, this is the real deal. Putting this baby on your hip and taking a walk around town is a workout to say the least. But go big or go home is what I say. So let's start walking around the gun here and kind of look at all the features, see what it comes with out of the box. As far as the sights go, this baby did not come with that fiber optic front sight. From the factory, it comes with a black blade. You can see it right here. So your rear sights on this are going to be 2 black blades as well, with kind of a faint white line that outlines them. So a black front sight against black rear sights is not exactly desirable. Smith and Wesson should win an award for worst sights ever. So I quickly switched that out for a high-vis sight. So from everything I've read, this is going to be the most durable, best quality sight there is. It's steel construction, it's a resin overmold over the fiber optic, and this baby is pinpoint accurate with it. Now when we go out and shoot it, I'm going to put the black blade back on that it came with from the factory so we can kind of get an idea of what it's like out of the box. You do get adjustment on the rear blades side to side for windage, so mine needed a slight adjustment right out of the box to get it kind of lined up and centered up, but now it's perfect, you know, and with that front fiber optic sight, you know, it's very easy to acquire your target there. It looks a lot better than the factory one, so that's definitely something I'd recommend. I was able to find this on sale for $31 on the manufacturer's website. It says that there are 45, so somewhere in there, under 50 bucks, you can get yourself that sight. It's not a true pinned front sight, it's going to be a DX front sight. So you have a little pin up here that you can see, so that front foot on, the front foot on that sight is going to slide under that pin, and then there is a plunger that's on a spring for the rear that holds that rear foot down there. So to take these sights out, you're just going to push down on it towards the rear of the gun and pull up. So it's very easy to switch these out since it's not a truly pinned sight. So I do love that on this revolver. As we're kind of moving on back, you can see that the whole revolver has a very nice stainless finish to it. So the only things that aren't going to be that stainless finish are going to be the hammer and the trigger. They have more of a raw metal color to them. I kind of like the offset there, that they are a slightly different tone than the rest of the revolver, but very nice finish on this. On a sunny day, this baby's going to blind anybody looking at it. On top of the barrel, we do have a few grooves here that are cut out So those are just to help reduce glare as you are acquiring your target here, that you don't get blinded and you aren't seeing stars. Works very well, looks very nice. Under the barrel, we do get a full underlug here. So that baby is solid metal. So this is gonna kind of help reduce that felt recoil. It's going to help eliminate some of that muzzle rise by getting a little bit more weight out on the front of the gun. Besides that, I do love the look of full underlugs. There's nothing I hate more than having a little dinky underlug that stops right about here, and then you just have your little skinny barrel that looks unproportionate. Love the underlug, it's practical, it's beefy, it's cool. Moving back to the cylinder, it is a fluted cylinder there, so I do like the look of these. They're very classic, you know, it just gives you a little bit better texture to grip onto on the cylinder when you are flipping it out, ejecting your shells, and throwing in new ones. So these revolvers will have kind of a side plate cover on them. Smith and Wesson makes such quality revolvers that you can't even tell that there is a side plate here. This thing is so flush fitting, it's kind of ridiculous. You have to look at it very specifically to faintly see a detailed line here that you can even tell that there's a side cover. So Smith and Wesson makes some of the best revolvers in the world. They're known for their perfect finish, that they're forged instead of cast. So forging a revolver is gonna make it a lot more strong than, say, if it were just poured into a cast. We'll flip the gun around here and you can see that there is the cylinder release here. So it's in the classic Smith and Wesson style. You will push that forward there. I know your Colt Pythons, you're gonna pull them towards you. Rugers typically just have a button that you press. I think the Smith and Wesson system of moving that forward to release the cylinder is just so well thought out. You know, you could have never held a revolver in your life, grab this gun, and you would instantly know how that's supposed to get actuated. So good job, Smith and Wesson. I love their system there because that's something that you're going to be using a lot. When releasing the cylinder, it just has a perfect feel to it. You know, I've held all too many revolvers that you actuate the cylinder release and it's kind of stuck in there and you can't get it out. This guy just comes right out every single time. It is absolutely like butter. The cylinder is going to be held in by the rear and by the front ejector rod there, so you have a couple different pins that will release when you actuate the cylinder release there. Everything feels very good. I have zero complaints there. Moving on down to the trigger here. So you don't get the most amount of real estate here. Typically you don't in your revolvers. So this is gonna be a double action and single action revolver. So we could just press the trigger and it will fire the revolver. It is going to be close to a 12-pound trigger pull. So this baby is tough. You have to mean it when you press that trigger in double action to get it to fire. Now, if we cock the hammer ourselves manually and get it to what they call single action, our trigger pull, you can see that the trigger moved back from being about in the middle there. So the trigger pull now is going to sit at about 4 pounds. It's going to be much lighter to press than if it were in double action. So the hammer has a great feel to it. The trigger has a wonderful feel. You don't get any sort of resistance. You don't run into a wall. You're just pressing that trigger. It just clicks that hammer right down and fires a shot. The double action is extremely smooth as well. Obviously it is a stronger trigger pull, but as you're pressing that, you know, it's rotating your cylinder, it's cocking back your hammer, all with just that trigger pull. So it makes sense that that's going to be a lot tougher trigger pull, but it's very seamless, it feels very good. I have zero complaints. I mean, the action on this gun will run with the best. As we move on back to the grip here, so from the factory, you just get this rubberized grip. You know, it has a slight texture on the side of it, on both sides of it there. You get your nice Smith and Wesson logos, and then you do have one visible screw there that's going to hold this on, so it's a true two-piece grip. There is many, 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 many grips out there for you. Hogue is a manufacturer of many excellent grips for this gun, and you have plenty of options through them. If you want a different size of grip, different texture, different material, I've seen everything you can imagine out there. What I will say about the factory grip is that it is extremely comfy. You know, this is just one big cushy grip that you're hanging on to, so for some of your hot 10mm loads, nothing is painful or snappy about shooting them. You are just in heaven, plinking away with this baby on the range. It does have slight finger grooves on it. I'm a sucker for finger grooves. grooves. You know, I like them on all my pistols, revolvers, semi-automatics, anything under the sun. I wouldn't mind if they were a little bit more pronounced there. You know, I think I'm gonna end up switching the grip out to probably a walnut wooden hoe grip that has a little bit more pronounced finger grooves on it, maybe a little bit better checkering. But from the factory, extremely comfortable grip, guys. I mean, it's tough to get a grip that feels better than this one. Now, how in the world does this shoot 10mm and 40 Smith and Wesson when those are a semi-automatic cartridge? You know, typically for your revolvers, you will find rimmed cartridges. Now, what I mean by that, just to show you here is a 357 Magnum bullet. So you will find many revolvers chambered for this, and upon looking at the base of it, you can see that the rim on the cartridge is slightly pronounced there and wider than the rest of the case. So that rim on it is going to sit down in your cylinder there and keep it from falling all the way through. So here we have a 10mm. The base of this cartridge does not have a rim that's wider than the rest of the case like our 357 Magnum did. The way that this revolver is able to shoot rimless cartridges is because it runs off of moon clips. So you will clip all of your shells into this clip here around that indent in the base of them. So you can get 6 bullets in there and they will look like that once they are clipped in. So your full moon clips will look like so. Now those moon clips make it very easy just to eject all 6 rounds and instantly put in 6 more. It is going to take a little bit of time to pull all of these shells out of your moon clip and then to clip new ones in there. So just something to note, when shooting 40 Smith & Wessons out of this gun, you will absolutely need to use the moon clips. When you're shooting 10mm, there is kind of a rim in this cylinder that will stop the cartridge right from the front here from going all the way through. So you can shoot 10mm in this gun without using the moon clip. But to take the cartridges out of there, the spent shells out of there, you will need to just put your fingertip on them to pull them out like that. So it is an option to shoot your 10mm without the moon clip. You know, if you were in a pinch, you needed a couple bullets in your revolver for some quick shots right away, that is an option, but your ejector rod is not going to pull those cartridges out. It will need the moon clip to extract them with that rod. Your revolver from the factory is going to come with 3 of these. I will say that they are extremely heavy duty and thick compared to other moon clips from other revolvers. I have just stuck with the 3 that I got from the factory, but they're not expensive if you want to get a few more as backups. So we've kind of gone over all the basic features and specs of this gun. So in reviewing it here, we're gonna kind of have to look at it 2 different ways. First off, as a revolver. Second off, as a 10mm. So how does it compare to all your other premium revolvers? How does it compare to all your other premium 10mm? Well, as far as revolvers go, you know, Smith & Wesson has been making them for a long time. They make some of the best revolvers in the world. I think the actions on them are smooth as glass. You know, they compete with the best. Everybody likes to say that their Colt Pythons, you know, are like a Swiss watch, that they're just so smooth, they run so perfect. I promise you that this Smith & Wesson right here will absolutely run with those, no problem at all. The overall construction and quality of this revolver is extremely good. It's second to none. You know, my only gripe was that black blade front sight, because the black front sight with the black rear sight, it's very hard to pick up and be precise and accurate with that. So it's easy to switch out that front sight. You know, I'm glad they did a DX style front sight that you can just push on it, remove it very easily, no tools required, and throw in your new one. I switched mine out in 10 seconds. That's how easy it is. It's never given me any problems with any rounds I've put through it. I've put a variety of 40s through it. I've put quite the variety of 10 mils through it, and it handles everything perfectly. So as far as a revolver, I'd give it a 10 out of a 10. As far as 10mm go, it's kind of hard to compare this platform to a lot of your other 10mm. They're just all gonna be semi-automatic pretty much. So when comparing this to, say, your Glock 20, your Colt Delta Elite, your Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 10mm that just came out, the one thing that all those are going to have that does beat this is capacity. So obviously you can only hold 6 shots in this platform here. Whereas your semi-autos, you know, take a Glock 20 for example, you can hold 15 bullets in the magazine. So the capacity is going to be greater on your semi-automatics. But where this 610 excels, I feel, is that with the 6.5-inch barrel, you are gaining a lot of velocity out of your bullets that you wouldn't have if you shot it from a shorter barrel semi-automatic platform. On top of that, another thing that this Revolver has going for it, comparing it to other 10mm, is the sheer weight of it. This thing is 3.1 pounds. So we all know that 10mm can be a fairly snappy round, you know? It's known for its power and its recoil. But when shot out of a platform like this, the hottest 10mm rounds are absolutely nothing. And you will see that when we go to the range and shoot it here. Nothing about it is painful, snappy, it just handles them extremely well. And I don't think anybody gets a 10mm load to shoot light 10mm cartridges. You know, I think everybody gets a 10mm to shoot those super hot, devastating loads. And some of your semi-automatic 10mm are not going to be rated for those super hot bare defense type loads. The Smith and Wesson M&P 2.0 10mm, for example, has recently been kind of busted out as not being able to handle hot 10mm. You know, the guide rod and the spring is failing on people when they're shooting their bare defense loads out of it. The last thing I would want is my 10mm to fail when a grizzly bear is running at me. The Revolver has no problem there because it does not use a guide rod, a spring, anything like that. This will perfectly cycle and shoot all of your 10 mils from the lightest 40 Smith and Wessons up to your hottest 200 grain cast bullet bare defense rounds. So as far as 10mm guns go, I think this here is going to be the most reliable platform for them. On top of that, you have the least amount of felt recoil of any 10mm handgun. You have the most velocity from any of your 10mm handguns. The only thing your semi-automatic 10 mils are gonna have on this one is gonna be that their capacity is more. But if you're pretty quick about it, you could eject those shells, throw in another moon clip here, and it's a fairly quick 12 shots that you've got ready to rock. Well, I think I should be done gabbing here. Let's go out to the range, put a few shots through it, and see how it does.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night, try to catch me howling at the moon.
Bit of an accuracy test here. Of course, it's windy as heck every time I try and do a video, So here I've just got some 40 Smith and Wessons. We'll start with those. We're gonna move to some different 10 millimeters, some lighter loads, some medium loads, and then some super hot loads, and see how the gun shoots it, see how our accuracy is here. So I'm just gonna load up 2 clips of these 40 Smith and Wesson 165 grains. We're gonna shoot at the left target there. It is out at 10 yards exactly, and we'll see what our grouping looks like. These are such a heavy-duty moon clip that this gun comes with. I mean, it holds the shells great, but sometimes they're a fiasco to clip in and then get out of there. Some people use like a spent 308 shell or something like that to help get them out of the moon clip. I just use my fingers. I don't think it's any impossible task, anything like that. It seems to be working all right. Maybe I'll change my mind down the road. But here we go. So 10 yards, 40 Smith and Wesson. And I'm gonna shoot these 2 clips in single action here, so that'll help us be a little bit more accurate. I think that was our last one. Yep. All right, we'll put one more clip in that same target here. God, it is so windy. Our target is just moving all over the place here. It's not an excuse though. I'm not using that as an excuse. See how they look. All right, so then at 10 yards, here's our grouping here. So we had a couple low ones, but most of these, I mean, this is about an inch or just over that there. And then from these two is maybe 2 inches there. So actually pretty accurate just in our single action using the 40 Smith and Wesson. So for our target on the right here, I think we're gonna do 40 Smith and Wesson again, and I'm gonna take 2 clips, so 12 shots, and then we're just gonna do double action for all of those and see if we notice a difference between the double action and the single action. And the double action is significantly a stronger trigger pull here, so we'll see how I do. All right, so 10 yards, all the shots will be in double action, and 40 Smith and Wesson 165 grains. Do one more clip. See how they look. All right, so looking at our single action here versus the double action, we are definitely more all over the board in our double action there. It's just a really long trigger pull. You know, it's a really long reach for my fingers, and I don't even have small hands, anything like that. But yeah, we are significantly more accurate in the single action than the double action, which is to be expected. I think everybody would agree on that, but we're still putting all the shots on the money. So I think now we're gonna try some 10 millimeter loads here. All right, so now we're gonna try our 10 millimeter rounds. So for these, I'll just use these handgun lines. They're 170 grain. They're flying at about 1,115 feet per second. So a little bit hotter than our 40s were. I think those were flying at about upper 9s, 995 for the 165 grain. So I've got 2 more targets set up. We're gonna do 12 shots on the one on the left, single action, 12 shots on the one on the right, double action. And I'm just gonna slow down a little bit and get a little bit more accurate. I've really been popping off rounds and not been so accurate, so we're just gonna take our time here, see how we do with these 10 millimeter rounds. All right, 12 shots, single action. Taking our time. Do 6 more. This big old end frame just soaks up those 10mm rounds so well. You know, in like a Glock 20 or something like that, 10 mil is a pretty hot round and you definitely feel it. It's very snappy, a lot of felt recoil. In this big old revolver, it is just nothing. It's so comfortable, I love it. Single action, 6 more. Alright, so now we'll do the target on the right here, all in double action. We'll do 12 shots here. And the way that I'm pulling that trigger, I'm just kind of lining up my sights and then I'm just pulling straight through. I'm not babying it real slow to simulate almost a single action. I'm just lining it up, pulling straight through so we can kind of get an accurate idea of what that double action trigger is like and how accurate it is. Double action, 6 shots. Apparently I didn't have my camera on record for the last 6 shots, so that was awesome. But anyway, so we've got 12 shots on each target here. So these were our 12 in single action. When we slowed down just a little bit here, took our time a little bit more, so they're all pretty much within 2 inches of each other is kind of the furthest point there. So 10 yards, 2-inch grouping in single action. And then when we move over to the double action here, we're about at a 4-inch grouping here. So, and I was kind of taking my time on both of these, but with that stronger trigger pull in double action, when I was just pulling straight through, not babying it, you know, we were just a little bit more inaccurate there. So it looks like double action was about double the grouping there. So, but the single action's very nice. You know, you can definitely be fairly accurate with this gun in single action here. So and then when we were shooting our 40 Smith and Wessons here, the 165 grain, flying at about 990 feet per second, those versus our 10 millimeters here, which were 170 grain, flying at about 1100 feet per second. I just didn't really notice a difference as far as felt recoil between those two. Like this revolver is just so huge and heavy. I just didn't notice a difference in the recoil there. So I had a friend who loaded me up some hand loads here. So these are 180 grain and they're flying at about 1200 feet per second, so they're going to be a little bit hotter than our 10 millimeter rounds that we were shooting, the 170 grains at 1100 feet per second. So we're going to shoot 6 of these and see if we can notice that they're a little bit hotter, see if there's any more felt recoil. All right, 180 grain, 1200 feet per second. Let's see how they feel. A little bit hotter. I can definitely tell a difference. Could slightly tell a difference. They were a little bit hotter than our other 10 mils and our 40 Smith and Wesson. So slight difference, but hardly noticeable. All right, so now our final test here. That same buddy had loaded me up these 6 others. So these are gonna be 200 grain bullets, and they are as hot as they could be loaded. There could be not another speck of powder fit in those cases. So according to the book, these are flying at just over 1,500 feet per second. So 200 grains, 1,500 feet per second. This is your classic bear defense load here. This is as hot as the 10 millimeter can get. So we're gonna shoot these through and see if there's a noticeable difference here. I have a feeling that there will be. I'm actually a little bit scared here. I don't really know what to expect. He gave me the fair warning when he gave me these, so we'll see what a full-fledged bear defense load feels like. Oh my gosh. Oh man. It was a little bit noticeable that they were a hotter load, but I mean that end frame, this huge revolver, soaks up everything so well. There was not anything painful or snappy about that. I mean, you guys saw it. The muzzle, the barrel rises just a little bit there, but as far as felt recoil, it really just felt the same as the rest. I mean, truth be told. So this might be the best platform to shoot super hot 10 millimeter rounds out of. I mean, that was just more fun than anything. So I love this revolver. Guys, that's probably gonna wrap up the video. I am absolutely in love with this Smith and Wesson 610. You know, if you want a super unique revolver, a very niche revolver, or if you just want a very unique niche 10 millimeter, I think you have both of those with this revolver, with this 610 right here. I'm so happy I found one. You know, I think it's way cooler to have than say a GP100 or a 686 or even a Colt Python. You know, these are just very sought after, they're very rare, and it is just a joy to shoot. I cannot think of a better platform to shoot hot 10 millimeter rounds out of. This thing just eats them, it soaks them up, it's not snappy, it's not painful. This might be my most favorite gun that I own now. Smith and Wesson 610, 5 stars, absolutely, for sure, every day out of the week. So like the video if this helped you out, subscribe if you want to see more, and until next time, have a great night, guys.